everybody. We are here in Brooklyn, New York at the Loves Club on our second stop on the Road to Essence tour. We created a beautiful, powerful space, continuing the conversations at building power at the intersections today. We had Latham Thomas from Mama Glow. We had Bevy Smith, the queen of Harlem and culture, baby. We had Alphonso David, of course, our partner in all things, the Global Black Economic Forum. We also had Candiace, Dillard, influencer, actress, singer. I mean, it was incredible. And we also had Karen Thomas of Pregnancy Justice. It was a powerful conversation. The people didn't want to stop, but we're not stopping because the road to essence continues where all roads lead to Black joy and Black liberation.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alphonso David. I am a civil rights lawyer, and I run the Global Black Economic Forum.
Yes!
And I am a partner, perpetual partner with Monica Simpson and Sister Song. So it's my pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much, Alphonso. I do want the room to know, because we're going to be talking about all the things today. But what's real is that even in the midst of so much that we're up against, we also are making some wins happen. And so just to set the context of what it looks like to organize effectively and use all of the tools, including our legal tools, we got some good news that came out of Texas that you were a big part of. Can we just tell the people what happened in Texas?
Sure. So on Monday, we received an order from a judge. And that order held that the Texas state controller violated the law.
That's right.
Now, let's just talk about what that means. So in December of last year, the controller issued regulations. And those regulations sought to redefine the law in Texas. What he sought to do was to decertify every single business that is owned by a woman and every business that is owned by a person of color.
Come on. Wow.
More than 16,000 businesses were affected. We sued him on the grounds that he violated the separation of powers. He violated due process. He violated the Texas Constitution. He violated Texas law. We argued the case on Monday in court, and we won.
Yes! Come through, lawyers. Listen, everybody has a role to play in this fight for liberation. Our lawyers do, our organizers do, our mental health and public health individuals, those who are artists and creatives, like everybody has a role to play. And when we do that to the best of our ability, we can win. So thank you for making sure that we are rooting this conversation in the fact that we could actually win.
And when we win, we have to understand they will come back.
Yeah.
We will continue this fight. Yes, we won at the district court level, but they're going to come back. Yeah. And so just remember, eat your Wheaties. This is a long fight.
That's right.
This is a long fight. When they come after our businesses, when they come after our bodies, when they come after our identities, they will continue to come. So it's important that we coalesce around our communities, and it's important that we continue this fight together.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alphonso, for the work that you do. And we're really grateful to be in partnership with you. And what better way to get this panel started with just what you just said, right? The work that we do is so intersectional. And the theme of all of our Road to Essence events and the conversations that we're curating is rooted in the theme of building power at our intersections. And so today, we have a powerful panel that's going to help us do just that. So can you all put your hands together for our panel as they make their way to the stage? You all go ahead and give them a round of applause. They're on their way. We have Karen with Pregnancy Justice, Candiace Dillard herself, Miss Bevy Smith, the queen of Harlem, good people, and Latham Thomas making their way to the stage. Y'all keep the crowd, keep it going. Keep it going. Yes. I love that. Come through. Okay. All right. We have microphones, yes?
Yes, we do.
Are we comfy in our seats? Yeah. Okay. Y'all look good in these seats. I tell you that. This is a fly panel. Y'all feel me? All right, good folks. We're going to go ahead and get started here. I don't want to go any further without naming what we are in the midst of and what we're closing out right now, which is Black Maternal Health Week. Can y'all make a round of applause for that? Black Maternal Health Week was founded and started by the organization known as Black Mamas Matter. I am a proud board member of that organization, has been serving as a proud board member, but this organization has been really curating this now national space where all different types of folks, whether you are birth workers or practitioners, advocates, activists, all committed to maternal health and addressing the maternal mortality crisis in this country, that for this week, we are all centering that work. And so we're going to talk about that on the panel a little bit more and how folks' lives and work intersect with that. But we have to give it up for Black Maternal Health Week, shifting the culture for Black mamas and Black birthing people, okay? So when we think about Black Maternal Health Week, we think about the economic justice issue that Alphonso just named and framed for us and why that win in Texas was so important. We're already talking about what it means to see how our lives are deeply intersectional, that Black people are not a monolith. And when we think about the ways that these oppressions that we're all fighting against intersect with our lives, then like Audre Lorde said, we cannot have single issue movements because we do not have single issue lives, right?
That's right.
Right. So I want to get you all's voices in just to kind of get us going today. When thinking about what we're coming off of with this Black Maternal Health Week, hearing about the win from Alphonso, just also thinking about what we're seeing in the news and what we're experiencing right now, where are you seeing the most opportunity to build power at the intersections from your perspective? So Karen, are you okay starting for us?
Sure. Hello.
There you go.
Okay. I think when things are burning down, which they are doing right now, it gives us an opportunity to rebuild. And so I feel like these moments are moments to be a phoenix. And part of what we have to do is be the feathers. So we were back there and I was like, what? I didn't even know this was happening because the hose is on and we're all constantly negotiating that there's a fire every day, every minute, every hour with this administration. So we have to just kind of settle into ourselves, settle in with each other, and understand what our opportunities are. And I think they're out there. I think they're out there legally. I think the fiscal work is out there. I think our connection is out there. And we'll talk more about what that looks like. But I feel this is an opportunity, not an end.
Absolutely. I love that. We have an opportunity, not an end. Candiace, what are you seeing as some of the opportunities that we have right now to build at our intersections?
So I was just, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hello.
Afternoon.
I was just upstairs talking with Alphonso and Karen about, I think it's important that you not get overwhelmed with trying to do everything. And there are so many issue areas. There's so much going on in the world right now that it's easy to say, okay, I want to be on this board and be an advocate for this thing and do that. For me, you find what your niche is, where you can make a difference, and you push in that. So for me, I am committed to bringing healthier food options to Prince George's County, Maryland.
Talk about that.
That's my thesis. And I
Talk
think we
about
can
that.
all find our issue area. I live in Prince George's County. I have for 20 years, actually, which is crazy to say. And as the second wealthiest Black county in the country, it is ridiculous. It's poppycock even that we don't have no good salad. Black people we want salad.
We want green.
We want greens.
Yeah.
And these big companies, the Sweet Greens, the Chops of the world, intentionally avoid Prince George's County. They are everywhere else in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, except for Prince George's County.
Wow. But
So
that
that's
makes
where
no
I
sense.
am.
That's so crazy to me, Candiace, that it's the wealthiest.
Yes.
So imagine in the hood.
Yes.
It's like we've been talking about food deserts in our
Yep.
marginalized communities, but
Yep.
to hear that Prince George's doesn't have like a salad option, like
Wow.
How did we get here? How
Wow.
are we here?
Yeah.
So I just think it's important to find an issue that you can latch onto, that you can be passionate about. And then, of course, as a new mom, I'm also very passionate about Black maternal health, and I'm excited to tell my story.
Absolutely.
I say that motherhood is beautiful, postpartum is sometimes ghetto, and we can talk about that when we get there. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Candiace. And I appreciate the fact that you are bringing to light, again, when we talk about these intersectional issues, food justice, right? And being able to have access to healthy food and access to just food in general as we think about what the landscape is for so many of our communities around the country. Now, Bevy, you came on in because I feel you like, what do you mean? It don't work that way. So what are you, from your perspective, and I know that you have so many angles that you come from because of so much work that you've done.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing the opportunities and what are you excited about?
Well, I mean, in my life, what I am is I'm a conduit. I'm a community builder, and I have a lot of different communities in which I work within. As something that's very, and Fonzo certainly knows, the LGBTQIA plus space is very important to me, but also marginalized communities. See, I speak for marginalized communities in all the very fancy, fabulous rooms that I go into. Okay, because I think it's important for us to always have a representation in those spaces where often we're just kind of speaking in this vacuum of everyone has privilege and access. But there are many spaces where they need to hear the truth. And I'm often that truth teller in those spaces, no matter how uncomfortable it is.
Yes.
But for me, I really believe that the greatest growth opportunity for us is to understand that we have always been community-based tribal people. We must get back to basics because oftentimes we feel like all of these things that are they're happening to us. We don't understand yet that they're happening for us. This is a great opportunity for us to reclaim much of what we lost during integration. Dr. King said, "I fear that I am integrating my people into a burning house." And yeah, he was right. And it was one of the biggest scams when they told us they wanted us to integrate. As you see how quickly they've turned on us and gotten us up out of there. To the tune of what, 700,000 Black women at this point?
I think and counting.
And counting.
And counting.
So that's insane. So we need to be focused on this. Community building. Everyone in this space should know each other, should be connecting. We can't just be in our little silos, you know what I mean? And so that's where I'm at with it. And all my work kind of is all around community building.
Absolutely. I love that you are committed to speaking truth to power wherever you are, and you take your communities and your experiences into every room. But what I also loved about what you just said is that it's an opportunity for us to reframe where we are, right? We can talk about this from a very dreadful place, or we can say all of these dreadful things are happening and it gives us an opportunity to think about the world that we want to create that we haven't seen yet. So I think that is
we haven't seen in over 50 years.
I mean,
when they let us up in that boardroom and told us it was going to be amazing.
Listen,
the old bait and switch.
Call them out, Bevy.
I'm calling them out. I can't stand them.
Listen, because truth to power. You feel what I'm saying? In real time. Latham, we're so excited that you're here, and we're going to talk about your work more explicitly in a moment, but I also know that you've been committed to building community in very intentional ways for a very long time and in really powerful ways. So in this moment that we're in, and we think about this notion of intersectionality in practice, what excites you? What opportunities do you see are available for us right now?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Much like what was already said, I feel like there's an opportunity for coalition building, really thinking about how, again, like you were talking about working in silos and being in community, we are hardwired for community, right? Like our brains expect us to show up in community. By the way, like we evolved this way because if you were by yourself, you'd be eaten by a mammoth or something. So you were always with people. And so we evolved this way and we actually work better this way. And so what I see the opportunity now is everybody finding out where we have weak points, where we have strengths, figuring out how we can support each other in not working in silos, but also figuring out where we have people in position, and as I like to call people who are undercover. And so when you're in places where there's power, where you have power that you can yield, money that you can spend, dollars that you can allocate, it's important for those individuals who still have those seats to figure out how they can continue to build, but also redistribute resources and wealth so that when we're building something, when they do what they're doing right now, which is trying to attack DEI and take down what we've already built, that we actually weave in ways that when they try to unravel it, they don't know how we built it to begin with. And so we have to think about how we code, think about our language, think about how our ancestors who traveled through the night during slavery to freedom and how they were using the maps of the sky and looking to astronomy. They used also astrology. They were looking at what was happening in the fields, and they were using coded language. They were using song. They were braiding and weaving. They were putting it into their food. And then they traveled by night, and then they knew to hold hands the whole time, right, as they were crossing a river. And then they made it to freedom, but not because they were telling people's business online, right? Giving everybody all the information, right? And so it's like gatekeeping, but not with each other, right? Making sure that we keep this information to ourselves of how we're going to move together like we always have. Because when people say like, oh, Black people don't know, we are always moving in community. And it looks sometimes like there's craziness, but think about all the things we've gone through. And when you look online, people are having conversations. We're like, did we all get raised by the same mama? Right? Did we all have everything? We have some of this coded in us. So we've always moved, even if we're not in places together, we move in blocks. So think about what it looks like to be in the spaces that you're in and how you can move resources that they cannot see you moving like this, right? Where you can do it undercover, where you can use your talent, your gifts, but also people who are outside, right? Who can help steward those resources forward, that you get it to them most quickly. And so right now, I think it's urgent, but I also think what we've been seeing as people who were working like this, you know, with their heads down now, popping up and saying, oh, hey, I'm over here. I didn't realize you were there. So now those people are coming together. I mean, a great example, like we started building with Sister Song a few years ago through our young people, and it's been amazing. And we're like, yeah, like we have this. Okay, we have this. Let's pull it together.
That's right.
So, you know, not being in competition and knowing there's abundant resources and that we all deserve to get free. And so like if I have a map forward, if I have a map for freedom, I'm not going to keep that to myself. And so I feel like we all need to think about what it looks like to like weave, right? Weave in a way that's intentional and make sure that everything that we build is something that they cannot destroy.
Absolutely. I mean, no notes, like no notes. I mean, right, like completely. It was devoured, and I love it. And what I love most importantly, I mean, all of what you just said, but this power of like weaving in a way and creating in a way that it cannot be unbroken. That's a powerful thing to stand on today, right? I also want to take a moment. We've acknowledged Black Maternal Health Week and the importance of that for us in community. But I also want to take a moment to also acknowledge something else that's been happening over these past couple of weeks, that with having all of these Black women and people who love Black women on this panel that we could not address, right? I want to call the names of the Black women who have been killed and murdered by those who were intimate partners or intimately connected to them. And I want us to say their names. Devontae Curtis. Can we say her name? Devontae Curtis is a Black trans woman who was killed, unfortunately, by her partner in Chicago. Nancy Mataye, an elected official in Florida, also killed. Dr. Celia Fairfax. a mother who was also taken away from us so drastically and violently in Virginia. Ashley Janae,
Ashley Janae.
an influencer, powerful, beautiful voice through social media and culture spaces whose life was taken in Africa. Pastor Tammy McCollum,
Pastor Tammy McCullough.
another Black woman taken from us way too soon by her intimate partner in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Barbara Deere, community activist and advocate in Chicago, who lost her life, unfortunately, by a family member as well. This is real, good folks, right? This work that we do is real, but what is happening in this country is real. We are not only fighting for our human right to be seen as Black people, this insidious culture of patriarchy and sexism and misogyny and misogynoir and all that, it is killing us, right? And it is important for us to talk about why we must address this at this time, why this is something that we cannot see as a separate issue from the work that we all do and that we're committed to, and why we must understand, like Sister Song started this campaign, Trust Black Women, over a decade ago because we had an extremist right that was trying to come for our bodily autonomy. And this campaign has given us the ability to talk about all of the different ways that Black women should be trusted. So I want to put this question to the panelists as well. How do we balance calling out harm within systems while also calling in our communities to show up differently for Black women in particular? Alphonso, do you want to start for us?
Thank you for the framing. I think all too often we operate in systems and pretend that we don't.
Yep.
We live within an infrastructure that was created to debase us. So let's just start there with the foundation, right? Not too long ago, and we'll say 400 years, but I say not too long ago because it's seeped into our history. I was not considered a person under the Constitution. They weren't even considered people as women. You're not even referenced. We were considered property and chattel. We didn't have the right to enter into a contract. It was illegal for us to do that. And I think sometimes we forget that that system that was created is the same system we live in today. Yeah. So as we think about that system, and as Black men and men of color that operate within that system, when we leave that system and go home, it comes with us.
That's very rude. Yep.
And it's difficult to have that conversation about racism and patriarchy and discrimination, but we bring that home with us.
Yeah.
And we have to think about how we can deal with the internal structures that we operate within and deconstruct the systems at home. I've had many conversations with Black men and men of color, and men generally, who have challenges with their wives making more money than them. It's real.
That is real.
And we know that Black women are the most highly educated group in the country. So that's going to happen. And we have to think about how we create systems within our homes, within our communities, to have these conversations. Right? Because if your wife is making more than you, if your girlfriend is making more than you, and you don't deal with that issue, it's going to come out in another way.
A very harmful way, unfortunately.
And that's, I think, just a product of what we're seeing.
Yeah.
We're seeing the issue with transgender or members of transgender community, and we're seeing that with members of the LGBTQ community. So it's not just limited to one segment of our population.
That's
And
right.
we have to think about how we actively deal with and deconstruct the problems that we bring in from those systems, and in some cases integrate them into our homes.
That's so real. I think that, addressing those barriers and like the fundamentals, the foundations of that is so important to this conversation. And that came out a lot in our Black Men Trust Black Women Roundtable. Did y'all see that online by chance? If you haven't seen it, that was also our attempt to figure out how do we create pathways for Black men, right? And not just cisgender Black men, right? How do we create those pathways for Black men to be in community and in this work around these issues around bodily autonomy? And so much of what came up in that conversation is exactly what you said. Getting to those systemic issues that Black men are still trying to break through. Also, there are so many other things. So please go watch it if you haven't. But I'm saying that to say there is absolutely a need for Black men and Black women to be in a serious conversation about safety, about what it means to be in a world where Black women are trusted and seen. I think Malcolm X said it best. He was like the most disrespected, like it's the Black woman, right? Thank you. Is the Black woman. You know what I'm saying? And so if we're not having these conversations for real, then the same thing, what happened to these Black women whose names I just named, we're going to continue to see more of that, and we have to figure out how to stop it. So I want to come to you, Black women, on this panel. I know that's a lot to hear and a lot to hold, so I want to be mindful of what that means for our bodies and for our minds and our spirits as Black women when we hear this. But how do we, right, build those connections in community and create that balance in community in a way that builds us towards liberation more intentionally?
I want to
Yes.
say we have to get back to truly the sisterhood. I think it starts at home for us. We are home based ourselves. And if you look at what's going on, when you mentioned some of those names, dare I say, specifically the trans woman,
Yeah.
so many Black cisgender women, even saying cisgender women is a big thing in the Black women's space.
It is.
Even though it's a scientific term. It's not something that trans women have given us. It's scientific. But when you look at what happened to her and not understanding that it could literally happen to you, and what happened to her is directly connected to you.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we think that that's a separate entity. Well, that person was a man pretending to be a woman, and that's the reason why it happened. We've all seen those things talking about why the people, oh, they were trying to trick somebody and all that kind of nonsense. So we need to come together as a sisterhood. We have, and also too, I'm going to talk about class disparity in our communities.
That's real.
That's very real.
Very real.
So again, you might look at the downtrodden Black woman who was just killed by her boyfriend or her husband and feel like that has nothing to do with you. But you might connect more so to, the lieutenant governor who.
Dr. Serena Fairfax.
Yes, Dr. Serena. Even the fact that her name is not easily called because much of the conversation has been centered around the murderer.
The murderer. That's right.
So these are all things that we as women have to make sure that we're on top of. We are our sister's keeper. So we can't be pointing out all these different, a lot of people also talking about the young influencer who was killed.
Yeah.
Well, she with that white man. Well, she said that she didn't want no brothers. And you see what happened. It's like, that's not why that happened.
No.
We shouldn't even be worried about the why, as in victim blaming. We need to be worried about how we can stop this from happening to trans women, to influencers, to the poor Black woman who lives in a project, or to a woman that's a doctor. We have to come into one accord. And so for me, again, it goes back to community, but also understanding that all Black women, we are all in this together.
That's right. That's
And
right.
if we could really get that through our heads, we would be much stronger. And we could also stop some of these horrible murders and things, because guess what? There were warning signs with all these horrible men that did this.
Yeah.
But I bet you there were the women that were in those circumstances maybe didn't feel like they could come to X, Y, and Z sister because maybe they would be judged.
That's so real. That's so real. The power of the community and the power of the village, right? And how do we reimagine that village now and why it's so important? Latham, I'm gonna come to you, and I'm gonna come to this side over here.
I think one of the things that I think about often too is how important it is for Black women to put down the load, right? Put down the weight that we carry. And I think specifically around the access to information that we have, the digital age we live in, where um, you're in a 24-hour breaking news cycle, there's a phone that's feeding you information, and how we consume that information actually changes how our brain functions. It impacts our nervous system. It impacts our stress response. It can deplete our health and well-being. And for those of us who have factors that are exacerbated by chronic stress, it could lead to things like high blood pressure, like stroke even. And so there's so many things that happen, I feel like, that we don't really realize we're internalizing. And scrolling, and so a couple things happen. One is that we scroll past a story about someone who was a human being who had a life of dignity that deserves to be honored. And sometimes people send us those things before we're even ready to process them.
Yeah.
And so I think one is to give yourselves the permission not to do that. Let people find and consume the content in a way that feels appropriate for them and when they want to encounter it, because those of us in this work know this stuff is happening. We know it's happening. This is why we do it every day. And so we don't need to be bombarded when we wake up with a text, a DM, or whatever, that somebody also just died or had a near miss. Like, give us the grace to do the work we're doing, but also to self-regulate, to show up to our day full, right? And then be able to, tend to these things as they, in the timing, because there's always like an expectation, like, you got to make a response, like, where's your statement? It's like, whoa.
Right.
And so I do not respond or move at a pace faster than my own. And now I say, okay, I'm going to take in this information. I'm going to give a beat. I might sleep or take a nap. I might do whatever I need to appropriately respond. And sometimes I can't respond. And that's also okay.
That's okay.
And so give yourself that that opportunity to check in and see how you feel about something, and live into those emotions and be in community with people to process them. And please do not expect Black women to also always have a response, because that is work.
Yeah.
It is labor that we're doing every day already, that you can find anywhere, probably on the internet. And it's just the same, right? Something else happening to a different person that we've said it a gazillion times. And we're going to continue saying it. But we also need the space to be able to actually be human beings.
That's right.
Right? And so I want us to think about that. And also on the other side, think about how all of this information contributes to desensitization. And so what it does also to people who are not in community with us, people think, oh, I'm going to continue to like talk about this issue and Palestine and this. I promise you, the people that you think will come to care, they do not care. White people and white power has always been comfortable in proximity to Black pain. Has always been comfortable to proximity to Black pain. So there's never a situation that'll come about where suddenly, and I'm sorry, George Floyd was not like a real response. It was a collective response that was driven by what our community felt. Yeah. But look where we are 4 years later, right? So it is not, or 6 years, oh Lord.
6 years.
6 years later, child. 6 years later, time is timing, right? So So this is something that we can also, so when you see this and you see all these comments from people who look like you, because those are the people who care. And if you're doing it for the reason that you think that it'll make an impression on people who are in positions of power, it does not. It is never has. These are people who literally had us hanging from trees and we're having picnics underneath.
Yeah.
So we have to think about also what the overconsumption of this type of content will do and how it can desensitize the people who should be responsive and titrate it, right? Because what they're doing now is an example of psychological warfare with releasing documentation that is terrifying and horrifying, and nobody knows how to process it because you're not designed to be able to process this type of information, not at this pacing, right? So I encourage us to think about what it looks like to take the load off of people who do this work, and it's all of us, right? And think about also what it does to you and sit with it as it's happening so that you can learn processing techniques, right? And self-regulation techniques. Our ancestors had them, right? We have them too.
I love it. Give us a moment. Give us a moment. Candiace, and then Karen, anything you want to share to this about how do we bridge this gap and create some balance here?
It makes me think about mental health. And we talk about mental health, I think, now more so as like a sexy topic. It's mental health has become this like, it's like, I always say when something is its own entity, it's the eighth housewife. It's the eighth housewife in the room. We have to reframe conversations around mental health. And what I say, because I come from my mother works in mental health, right? So I grew up in a Black household where it was accepted and more so seen and okay to talk about your mental health. I also grew up in a household where I was shrunk and micro, analyzed because my mother worked in the field. So it's a double-edged sword. But I am a big proponent of not just finding your therapist, but interview your therapist.
That's a word.
Don't just take the first one that comes to you, because it's overwhelming and it can feel like a daunting task to, okay, I gotta find this lady, gotta find this man, I gotta tell him my business, I gotta pay him all this money, I gotta go into the office, or I gotta get online. It's a lot. It is a lot. It can almost feel like a job to not lose it.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to frame it as if I'm adding extra work, but it is for the benefit of our survival that we have a space to leave that stuff. And you want to leave it on a professional that can give something back to you that you can then go into your communities and go into your spaces and do the work, or not do it because you need a break, you need a minute. I love that you said that. And so don't just take this first person that comes to you. I've gotten into the habit of, this is not working anymore. I thank you for your services. I appreciate what you've given me, but it's not clicking. I'm not feeling like we are on the same page. And I think I need to find someone else. And when I grew the courage to be able to say that, you find that the therapists, they understand and they will thank you. And, if you need help, resources, finding someone else, here is a list. But take the time, write down questions, the things that you need from this person. Everybody's talking about Claude and Chat GPT and all that. If you want to go to her or him and write, help me frame questions that I can ask this person so that when I go into my sessions, I can get the most out of them.
That's right. That's real. I love that, Candiace. Oh, because we got to take care of ourselves, so we got to work for that. Any last words, Karen?
Very quickly, I just want to pick up on what you were laying down about ancestral knowledge and ancestral connection. Because I just read an article about how fetal cells, when a woman is pregnant, pass through the barrier into the mother's bloodstream, and the mother's blood and her cells pass through to the fetus, so that we are always carrying each other literally in our bodies. And I was thinking about, we were at a conference earlier this year, Reproductive Justice Futures, And I learned there that Harriet Tubman would have these dreams when she was evacuating people to freedom. And she would see Black women in white clothes. And I thought about that. I think about how literally it is in our bodies, and that is information that we need to be connected to, aligned with, and reliant on, because people have been through it.
Yeah.
Nothing that we are doing is new,
No.
but what we keep doing is forget that strength and that knowledge. So I just think we have to it's not even necessarily spiritual, but it's about remembering who we are.
It's ancestral. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So this balance requires us to stay connected to our ancestors. It requires us to advocate for ourselves and to get super clear about what it is that we need so that we can be our most effective and healthy selves. It requires us to be intentional about dismantling these systems and these foundations, right, that we have to shift and to create new solutions for. It requires us to make sure our village is tight. And it requires us to make sure that we take time for ourselves and move at a pace that is right for our nervous system. Y'all just gave us a blueprint on this here panel, okay? Can we all take a collective breath together, beautiful people? Just breathe in through your nose at your own pace and just release through your mouth. Let's just do one more of those together, breathing in through our nose and releasing. And one more time for the Holy Ghost, as my grandmama would say. Breathing in all these possibilities and releasing anything that would not allow us to show up and be our best selves. Ashe? Ashe. All right. Now, thank y'all for letting us take that moment to move into that and to not just move into me asking these brilliant people their questions about their work and their intersections, because we're living this life in real time, right? But I am going to jump us to our questions because we have just a little bit more time. And I want to make sure that these people know the work that you do. So I think Fatima told me we had 10 minutes before we had some questions. But I have faith in you all as powerful speakers, that you can give it to the people how they need it. All right. So I'm going to start with you, Latham. You have built a global movement around holistic birth work that what does it mean to center reproductive justice, care, and sovereignty in Black maternal health for you and your work with Mama Glow? Because y'all know Mama Glow, right? Okay, just making sure you know it in the room. And so I want you to talk about that, but also, how do you reclaim birth as a space of power and not fear, especially for Black women navigating this very, very horrid medical system that we are unfortunately forced to engage with?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to try to remember both parts of the question.
I got you if you need.
So I'm going to come to the last part first.
Yeah.
And we deserve to birth in joy and in transcendence and in celebration. It's our birthright. It is how we're coded actually to come into this world.
Yeah.
I love that you were speaking out about the ancestral blueprint and how we share this cellular information, which crosses through the placental blood barrier, but also forever part of you lives inside your mother.
That's right.
And it is so important for us to remember that before we were reliant upon the systems that are literally trying to kill us, that we had solutions and had incredible birth outcomes and low fetal mortality rates when we were birthing in community that was supported by women supporting women. And that was really the rudiments of what will become our current medical model. So everything that we see now that we benefit or don't benefit from, the sort of, what do you call them, nuggets, right, that would spawn what we live inside of today, was really born out of incredible midwives who were weavers, who were root workers, who were caretakers, who looked after everybody in community, who were highly respected for their skills, who were seers, and who knew how to navigate the pelvis, right? And they knew better than like white male doctors. And so
Who
they
they
end
taught,
up
they
who
stole
they
from.
taught. And when
stole
they
from them.
taught them, to put that on it, when they taught them, right, actually like they were forced but also tricked into coming inside of medical institutions when the OBGYN profession was nascent. They come in, they give the information to them, and it's supposed to be like collaborative. It is not. As soon as they get that information, they then credentialize themselves and actually criminalize the midwives for practicing, and something we still teach to this day. And so still we have this racist propaganda that overlays the midwifery profession. And when we think about where we are now, where basically everybody was born by Black or Indigenous midwives, now to this day, we see of the 14,000 midwives that are in this country, only less than 2% are Black, right? Less than 2%. And same with OBGYNs. There's 37,000 of them and less than 2% are Black. That's for a reason, right? But even with that, we have been constantly passing down this information. We have people who still do out of hospital birth. And when I think about the work that all of us do to help people have autonomous decision making in their care, you can choose out of hospital birth for low risk birth, and it can be at home or in a birth center. And there are midwives who attend births in hospitals. It is really about thinking with, I like to think about the blueprints that like Audre Lorde and Octavia Butler give us for a liberatory framework. I like to think about Afrofuturism and using that as a model to design a future of how you want to birth. Like think about how it looks for us to birth in spaces where our bodies are seen as important and valuable, but also as the arbiter of safety, right? And I think that there's an opportunity for us to really deploy resources to get back to funding midwifery care,
Period.
funding and deploying doula services, particularly in our areas where we have not just low income, but where we are in counties that literally have no care providers.
That's right. That's right.
And so looking at our maternity care deserts as well, and getting back to this, because when COVID happened, by the way, everybody was looking for a midwife. Wasn't none to be found, right? There weren't enough. And because we built systems against midwifery, just like we built systems against caregiving in this country, right? And so what I see as possible and what a lot of us are visioning and dreaming on for a future is one where we take it back. We come back and get our stuff, like take our stuff back.
Come on,
Right?
Zaki.
And design it differently, right? Design it differently and know that if you are going to walk into these spaces, which some of us are great candidates for out of hospital birth, some of us are not, right? And if we do have to go into these settings, we go armed. We
That's
pull
real.
up with, like when I roll up in a place, if I look by myself, but it's we going, right?
Period.
It's community coming. And also if I'm by myself, my ancestors is with me. Right? So I'm never by myself.
Yeah.
But when you do go into these spaces, we go in village, right? So we village keep and we design in a way where there's people who can advocate alongside us. Because one thing that's really important that we have to stop telling Black women to do is to advocate for themselves while they're birthing. You can give birth or you can advocate and fight for your life. You cannot do both.
That part.
So,
Yeah.
so let's remove the barriers that make it impossible for Black women to birth with ease and in sanctity and in beauty and in joy. Remove the impediments to that process instead of telling them to advocate, right?
Sure.
Because before you have your baby, like during all your appointments and all of that, you want to build up those advocacy tools, obviously. But in the process, you need to be able to be at ease. You need to feel like you're swaddled in love and community.
That's right.
And that's the vision.
I love it. Talk about a vision. Come on, Latham and Mama Glow. Yes. All right. All right. Y'all still doing all right, audience? Y'all are a part of this experience with us, okay? All right. Shift your booty cheek just one time. There you go. Switch to the other side. You know what I'm saying? Flip your hair back. It gives you a little bit more stamina to move through the rest of the conversation. Y'all feel me? All right. I'm going to go to our cultural bearers for a second, Candiace and Bevy, right? So, Candiace, as someone with a beautiful public platform that I follow daily, okay, how do you navigate conversations around Black motherhood as the new beautiful Black mother that you are? And talking about that, especially in a world of culture where it seems like these conversations are not nuanced enough, but you are using your platform to do so. So, why is that important? How are you doing that? And why are you doing that?
Well, I think Latham, you just kind of laid out the why, because I mean, I will say this. My husband is white. Okay, so I operate in a lot of white spaces because of him, but also I grew up in white spaces. So I'm still connected to a lot of those spaces. I work in spaces where I have to be around people who don't look like me. I feel like I'm always explaining and white splaining and black and just woman splaining. I'm always explaining. And I find more often than not that people become exasperated with me in my quest to edify and educate. And, you know, one would say that would maybe make me weary and make me want to withdraw, but it makes me say, oh, so this means that there's more work that needs to be done. The fact that you are annoyed with me for talking about race, for talking about colorism, for talking about the disparities in Black maternal health care, that means we ain't talking about it enough. And so I need to get in your face a little bit more and be a little bit louder and be obnoxious about it. And so that's why, because we're not there yet. We're not safe yet. We're not heard yet.
That's right.
And, you know, I'm a woman, a Black woman who has privilege. I have a platform. I am a known entity, for better or for worse. So I had access. I had an amazing midwife doula. I had my husband in the room. I had an amazing Black OBGYN. I had the best care. My father is a doctor who probably saved me from dying postpartum. And I recognize that everybody doesn't have that. And I still had a ghetto ass postpartum experience. It was still raggedy with all of that. And so as I was coming out of my experience, I was just in awe of how bare this experience that should be beautiful and should be everything that you want it to be under the sun, that is dangerous and scary and the unknown for so many Black women. And every Black woman I've talked to has a different birth experience, which I think is beautiful. There's nothing, you go to school for this as an OBGYN, but you don't know what the hell you could get anything. You don't know what the hell you're going to get. And it's beautiful, but it's also very frightening because for someone like me who had an amazing pregnancy, I'm an IVF mom. So my son is here on earth because of IVF.
Come through for IVF.
And
come on.
And I talk about
fertility
it.
justice.
Yes, I talk about it. And I talk about this specifically because I was able to get pregnant naturally. I chose IVF as a family planning resource.
Wow.
And I talk about it often because I want to bring that to the forefront for Black women specifically as an option for you. I was in my 30s and I said, I don't know if I want to have kids. I don't know when I want to have kids. But in case I do, I want to give myself this insurance.
That's why.
And again, I was privileged enough to have the out of the $56,000 out of pocket to pay for my hormones, my daily doctor's appointments, the genetic testing that we did, the fee, the hotel fee for the embryos and the eggs, because they gotta stay in the freezer. And that service it's astronomically expensive, and it's not covered by insurance unless you can prove for, I think it's depending on this, it's state by state, but in Maryland, you have to be actively trying to get pregnant for at least a year and then prove that and then go to the doctor and say, I can't get
How
pregnant.
you gonna prove you've been fucking for a year? I don't understand. Are you gonna be in my house?
Help me.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Help me understand.
Are they looking at the you know what I'm saying? Because how many strokes does it take?
I don't understand. So what do you mean? What do you mean? So it's the other part of why I talk about all of this is because these are services that should be covered by insurance, fully covered by health insurance, completely. If I want to plan my family, I should be able to go to my insurance company and say, okay, I want give me 6 embryos right now. God willing, you make it happen. And that's simply not the case.
Right, yeah.
So, and I could go on and on, but the reason I talk about these things ad nauseum, as obnoxiously as I do, is because we're not there.
We're not.
It's not talked about enough, and the people are still rolling